Hey guys, this is Ginger. Today I want to talk about operating in different cycles. So I call it a high cycle and a low cycle. For me, I like to explain it as there are periods in time when you are creating a lot of things, you're being very productive, you're working a lot and you're also getting a ton of results, right? You're investing your time and energy, even your money and other resources, and you're doing a lot in your business, right? You are outputting so much good stuff. Maybe you're in a cycle, in a high cycle, where you are writing your standard operating procedures, right? You're getting all of that done. You get your team on board. You've got all these things documented, it's organized, you're feeling like just so much is getting generated and you've got so many great results and you're kind of just keep going. You've got the momentum, you've got the energy, and you keep going and you're producing amazing results that you wanted to create. So that's an example of a high cycle. Now, the reverse, or the opposite, I should say, is a low cycle. During the low cycle, you are spending some time in much needed rest. You're not creating a bunch of results. You're not doing a lot of work. You just want to lay down and just be for a moment, right? You might be in this period where, in a low cycle, you're not really sure what the next right step is. You're not really sure what you want to do next. There might even be things that in the back of your mind you feel that you should be doing, and yet you're not taking action. Low cycles are also times when you have a bit of mental space to reflect on where you are and where you want to be, or what sorts of things make you feel uncomfortable. Low cycles are also a time when maybe you're spending more time with family and friends and less time working on your business, or maybe you're spending time on yourself and taking care of your health and well being instead of doing things in your business as your priority, right? And in both high and low cycles, there is a lot of value. And I think that a lot of times as business owners, we put value only on the high cycle because that's when we're on fire. That's when we're doing all the things. That's when all these great things are happening. We feel like we're on a high. And when that stops and we no longer feel that way and we no longer see results happening day after day after day, we no longer see things coming off of our to do list. We are in that low cycle, but we tend to judge ourselves when we're there. Have you done that? Have you ever just thought, I'm not getting anything done? I should be doing this and should be doing that. I really need to be doing this other thing. Or, oh man, that's been on the back burner and I just haven't done it. Or, oh man, I need somebody to kick my butt. And what happens is we judge ourselves harshly during our low cycles. We look for solutions as if there's something to solve because we are in a low cycle. We look for inspiration because we want to get out of our low cycle. We want to avoid this low cycle because it feels like, well, I'm not getting anything done. I am not being productive. I'm just being lazy. Or I've heard people say, I'm just not good at that. And what we need to remember, friends, is that the low cycle is part of the process. It's not something to try to avoid. It's not something to try to pull yourself out of. And so, if we look at it sort of like a machine, It's got a certain runtime, a certain uptime where it's going and going and producing the result that it was designed to do. And then that machine needs to stop for maintenance. It needs to stop and it needs to get service, right? It needs downtime, maybe to change over the pads or the oil or whatever, right? There are times when it's just down. That time is absolutely necessary for the longevity of that machine to work. Recently, I had my car in for service and I knew I needed tires. I felt like I'm going to probably need brakes soon and alignment, all those things. And for a while, I was like, okay, this is going to happen. I know it's going to be needed. And then when I got to the dealership for my oil change, sure enough, they said, oh, you need tires and brakes. And I was like, great. I was expecting that. But I didn't have my car for a full day. They gave me a loaner. And as I'm driving the loaner, um, I was like, man, I feel like I don't want to do too much driving in their vehicle. I'll just wait until I get my car back. And so for that day, I kind of just did whatever I could do from home using my laptop and stuff. And when I got my car back, it was like, oh, such a relief, right? There's nothing like driving your own car and having your own chords for your Apple CarPlay or having your own comfortable settings and stuff. So it was really good to get my car back, but when I got it back, it wasn't in the same condition that I dropped it off, right? I had new tires, I had the service done, and the experience with my car, while it's comfortable and it's my car, I'm used to it, it is better. It is better because it's now safer. My car now has things that were much needed, like those new tires. It's safer. I'll be good in the rain and the snow and the winter weather, right? I'll be able to go another 40,000 miles with a smoother ride and stuff like that. And so you see what happens is in this example, my car was in a low value or a low cycle, and it wasn't getting used for its purpose. It wasn't driving me around. It was getting service so that it could perform better when it's in its high cycle. It was getting cared for, it was getting maintenance, and downtime led to the ability for my car to have another high cycle. If I did not do that maintenance, then I would not have the ability to keep driving my car safely from that point forward. Because at some point, bald tires are going to happen and brakes are going to stop working because the pads are worn down. And then you're doing more damage to the vehicle. You see where I'm going with this, right? You're doing more damage to the vehicle by running it down instead of stopping for maintenance. So my car had its low cycle, and now I can continue on in a high cycle. Likewise, in business, there are times that are required to rest, refresh, renew, to think and reflect, to not have a high output, to not be hyper productive, to not just run, 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 go, 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 day after day. There are going to have to be times where you pause the assembly line, where you give your brain and your body a break. And in that time of maintenance, in that time of that low cycle, you are preparing for the longevity of your work so that when you return into a high cycle, you are better prepared. You're clear on what is the next right step. You are understanding what needs to happen. You have a better clarity around how you're going to get your work done, what you're going to stop doing, what you're going to start doing, what knowledge or training do you need. You are better prepared for your high cycle when you take your low cycle seriously. And it's like a yin and yang, right? There is a constant balance where you cannot stay in any one state. You're either high cycle or low cycle, and it continues to rotate around through those two. And that's just part of the necessary process. So I say this because when we are in a high cycle, we feel like we're great. We're doing a great job and we are so proud of ourselves. Like we're telling, oh, I got this done and this done. I feel great. But if someone of us, studio owners, if we hear about someone else's high cycle and we are currently in our low cycle, we feel like crap. We feel like crap because we're in a low cycle and we're not doing the high output that this friend over here is doing. And so we judge ourselves and think we're not good enough. There's something wrong. Why aren't our we're just in a low cycle. And when our low cycle is done, guess what's going to happen? Another high cycle. So I say this all because I want you to think about a time when you were in a high cycle. How did it feel? What were you getting done? And think about the time when you were in a low cycle. And remember that this is normal and natural, and it's going to keep flip flopping between high and low. This is just the way that things work. Whether it's humans or cars or machines, right? These are part of the necessary processes of life. Please, please avoid judging yourself when you're in a low cycle. Use your low cycle for much needed maintenance. Take the time to think through the things that you're doing, think through your decisions, think through, hey, we've always done it this way, but we're also getting this result. What could we change, alter, add, or get rid of to make things more peaceful, to make things more profitable? Remember that low value cycle where you are not producing could also just be a time of rest where you just don't, where you decline the meeting, where you decline the invitation, where you just exist and take the time to be intentional about how you are leading your business. Likewise, in that high cycle, when you will get the inevitable feeling and urge to slow down, please remember that this is only a temporary thing. That high cycle is only going to last but for so long because we were not designed as humans to run indefinitely with no stop, to constantly be working. That is not healthy. It is not healthy to constantly be outputting so much. And in fact, if you are constantly in a high cycle, lots of productivity, not only are you yourself going to burn out, but you're going to lose focus on what's most important and what it is that you actually want to do. Because if you're constantly got your foot down on the pedal, going straight ahead 100 miles an hour, you're going to miss some exits. You're going to miss the signs. You're going to miss opportunities because your head is down and you're working so hard that you don't see other opportunities that could be available to you that you perhaps will only see during a low cycle. So I invite you, whether you're in a high cycle or a low cycle, to just take a moment to reflect about where you are. Stay in that moment and think about, okay, I know what's going to happen next. It takes some of that stress and anxiety out, right? If you're in a low value cycle, you might feel like, I'm just never gonna, this is just so hard. I'm just tired. I just want to stay in bed. What's wrong with me? Please. So many of us say, what is wrong with me? And there's nothing wrong with you. You are not the problem. You're just in a low cycle and it's not going to last forever. Just around the corner from every low cycle is a high cycle. Okay? So, friends, I just want to invite you, if you are enjoying the podcast, please do share it with a friend. And I love reading the reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I have my own studio and I love coaching other studio owners. If you are ready to discover where you're stuck and how to get unstuck, I'd be happy to talk with you in a free 15-minute breakthrough call. You can go to my website, gingerhaithcox.com/coaching, and fill out the form there. I can't wait to talk to you again next week. Take care.